From Unity Church of Christianity in Houston, Texas, this is The Awakened Life with Reverend Howard Caesar. Unity is a non-denominational Christian church providing a positive, practical, and progressive approach to Christianity. Let's join the service in progress with the Reverend Howard Caesar.
You know, I've really felt guided to keep going with this topic. It's such an important topic. It's so universal. It's so important, really, to our progression as a soul. As we say, we are all in relationships. You can't get away from relationships. Who we are is our relationships. And our quality of life hinges on the quality of our relationships. And they are the schoolhouse of life, that everywhere we go, we meet people. There are those that are close in that we spend a lot of time with and love them and our family and so forth. And then there are people that we may meet just momentarily, but we're in relationship with one and all. We should always value, not just how much we gain from those relationships that are close in our lives, that we, receive a lot of love and joy and support and fun. But we should also value and have value for our relationships for what they teach us, what we learn about ourselves, what we're able to heal in relationship to the past as things come up. We get to become more aware and awake of ourselves. We get to grow. We get to evolve as a soul. And so relationships should be looked at and understood from that perspective as well, and valued on that basis. And so earlier in this series, I shared that it's been stated that, I believe from the Eastern traditions, they say that the moment you die, your first thought has to do with relationships. And that you only really remember your relationships, that there isn't a sense of thinking about anything physical, material that you left behind, any stuff or any achievements or any accomplishments or anything that you accumulated. It basically is all about your relationships, because your relationships are that which are lasting, they're precious, they're eternal, they're valuable. And the truth is that we are all one. Okay, that is a universal spiritual teaching. We're all one. So everywhere we go, as we, experience relationships, close, near, far, just brief encounters, clerk at the store, whatever, we're really one with everyone. And it's important to know that. And, in that idea of oneness, that everyone is our brother and sister and so forth, there's that passage biblically where Jesus was speaking to a body of people, and I think he was in a temple or synagogue, and someone came up to him and told him that your mother and your brothers are outside and they're waiting and seeking to speak with you. And Jesus answered and said, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And then it says in the passage that he stretched out his hand toward his disciples. And I really believe that he stretched out his hand, not just to the disciples, to everyone who was there in front of him, and he said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father is my brother, sister, and mother. And then we could ask, well, what is the will of the Father that we're, for all of us? Well, the will that we all share, that is the will of God, is for us to be what we were created to be. What is our true nature? And that is love, okay? And so as we step into that love, that is our true nature, then we get to see, my goodness gracious, we are all brother and sister and mother and family. And that's what he's really trying to convey. And so we are all to be taken into this place that is called unconditional love. That is the nature of God. Unconditional love. Not just love, but unconditional love. And so there's a term that the Buddhists have used, which is loving kindness. And it indicates the idea of unconditional friendliness and goodwill. And some of you, and most of you, are familiar with that very, very famous letter to the Corinthians. It's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that the Apostle Paul sent. And it's just packed with the idea of the importance of love and what I feel is unconditional love, and it's emphasized throughout this particular passage. And you'll recognize it when I share it. It starts out, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not charity, I have become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. First of all, who wants to be a tinkling cymbal? All right, that doesn't sound appealing to me. I don't know. But also, it's saying, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not charity. It uses the word charity, and you understand that in the King James Version translation of the Bible, that is said to be the one translation that has the fewest mistranslations, because there are liberties that people have taken as they've, over time, translated the Bible. And so it came with the word charity. And actually, the word comes from the Latin word caritas, which is the root of the word caring. And so, since that time, most of the translations that you read in that passage use the word love, right? And but if you are reading that passage, a person could really kind of substitute in there or replace the word charity with whatever they may be led to. It could be caring, it could be loving kindness, as the Eastern, the Buddhists, could be love. Or I really suggest that when you read that passage, you think in terms or insert the idea of unconditional love. Okay, which is the ideal that we are all called to. And so I would like to read that passage to you again, using the word and the reference to unconditional love. And I would like you to listen to it from the perspective of, here's the Apostle Paul, who's had a tremendous experience of the oneness with God. He's awakened to insights that are so powerful in him he has to share, and he is expressing the extreme importance and significance of love and what it is and what it isn't, and trying to define it in an unconditional way. And so here's the way we would hear it. Though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not unconditional love, I am become a sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, pretty good stuff, And although I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not unconditional love, I am nothing. Wow. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not unconditional love, it profits me nothing. Unconditional love suffers long and is kind. Unconditional love does not envy. Unconditional love is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil. Unconditional love rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. I love this. Unconditional love never fails. You step into unconditional love in consciousness, it will never fail you. Because life is relationships, and it will transform. And if you drop down to verse 10, it says, but when that which is perfect has come, and then that which is in part shall be done away with. So when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part shall be done away. And what it's really saying is that when the perfect comes, which is referring to when unconditional love, when you get to that's perfect love, unconditional love, okay? And when that happens, then that which is in part will be done away, which is basically conditional love. We are all loving really with certain conditions. We're not always in touch with that, but we have conditions, and we slip into criticism, slip into judgment, slip into rejection, slip into whatever, and show up in various ways. Have conditions. So that's all gets cleared when perfect comes in. And then you drop down another couple verses to verse 12, and it says, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Once we've shifted and grown and awakened, then face to face. And that means now we see through our filters. We see through a glass darkly. We see through our ego, and that dims really the unconditional love that wants to burst through. But then, the place we're going to, this awakened, unconditional love, then, with growth, we come face to face with who we really are. come face to face with the fact that our really true, pure nature is just love. Nobody has to earn it. You just are it. It's who you are. And it's the grace of God really moving through you. And a deep, wonderful connection. And so right now we're seeing through our filters. But then we will see our true nature as love. And it finishes off, it concludes, and I love this conclusion, which is, now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. It's kind of a tricky way that it's said there. You got to hear that. Now I know in part, but then, down the road, when I am more awakened, when I have grown in consciousness, then shall I know even as also I am known. So what it's saying is that really now I know only in part, partially, who I am is love. But then, down the road, shall I know, even as also I am known by God. Didn't add by God, but who knows me to be who I really am, my true nature? Who created me in the image and likeness? Who knows and sees and holds me in wholeness? I am known. I am known as this. This is really who I am, all right? And that's a beautiful passage, because that's how you're held to be. That's how you are already known by the divine. So why is it so hard to love unconditionally? Well, one reason is because we see through a glass darkly, and we see through our filters, and we see our differences, and we fail to accept that we are different. We're all different. And last week we ended part 2, pretty much making the point that we're all different and that we're all the same. And we said, well, we're all the same in that we're all spiritual beings, we're all children of God, we're all beings whose nature is love, really, and at our core, that's who we are. And we're all the same in that we're all healing our way, through our past toward our wholeness and fullness as healthy love. But then we're all different, in that we see our world and we see each other through a unique filter. The unique filter for each of us, of our age, our race, our gender, our ethnic background, our religion, our sibling position, our social class, our family history, our childhood events, childhood decisions, and much, much more. Okay? So let's look at actually gender differences for a moment. Have you noticed women are different than men? And men are different than women, And some of this can help as we look at that. If men and women are going to get along actually in relationship of any kind, they are going to have to understand and accept we're different. And there are unique differences that we can't be in relationship asking one another, to change and be something we're not. And studies have been done to point out that, one of the distinctions, men from women, is that women talk more than men. That's not being critical, it's just actually, they say, a fact. Now we're not, anything can be overgeneralized, so bear with me on this, because there are always exceptions. But it says that, in the study that women tend to talk, an average of 20,000 words per day, you've heard that, and that the average man talks about 7,000 words per day, and that poses a problem right off. As one analyst expressed it, when man gets home from work, he's already used up his 7,000 words. And woman is just getting warmed up. But then there is the rebuttal. And the rebuttal is that the reason that women talk at least twice as much as men is that men don't listen. And that women have to repeat everything 2 or 3 times. They say that one of the most heavily used words by men is, what? What? Just this week, I kid you not, there was an article on the internet, on the homepage, that revealed more information about why women talk more than men. There's new research that was done that they came out with, that there is actually a biological reason. And this study was conducted by researchers at the University of Maryland, the School of Medicine, and it revealed that women's brains have higher levels of a language protein that is called FOXP2, FOXP2. And their finding is that this protein is actually involved in vocalization. And they said it isn't the be-all, end-all reasoning as to why women seem to, or tend to be more verbal than men. But the study was published actually in the Journal of Neuroscience and told how they examined a group of children that were in the ages of 4 and 5-year-olds, and they discovered through their tests and so forth that there was 30% more of the language protein in the brains of girls than in boys. So there you have it. That just came out this week, I saw. And the article also said that doesn't mean really that women are always the chattier gender. There are always exceptions, and so keep in mind there always are. But some of the other things that actually have been distinguished through surveys and statistics that make us a bit different, and it's always helpful to look at. For most women, 20% of their body weight is muscle. For men, it tends to be around 40% of their body is muscle. Women can be more sensitive to sight and sound. Women, favor really their right side of the brain, where feelings, emotions, nurturing, being relational, where men actually are more into logic. There's always exceptions, but more into logic, more into the left side of the brain. They're more into being competitive. They're interested in facts and information and details, left side, and less aware relationally. Women, they find identity in relationships. Men tend to find identity in accomplishments. We had a couples retreat several years ago, and it was conducted with our dear friends Mary Morrissey and Joe Dickey, and we had a nice group here from the congregation that went to a retreat center and spent a couple days there. And within the material that was presented, we had a video by Matt Boggs. Matt Boggs actually has been here. He's one of Mary Morrissey's sons, and he had done extensive research, traveled around the country, meeting with couples who had been in relationship a long time, finding out what worked, what didn't work, and he wrote a book. And anyway, he had some very interesting insights and makes some interesting points to better understand each other and how it is that we are different. And so I share some of what he had to say, and that is, he said that women can be helped by learning man-suasion. Like the word persuasion? Man-suasion. He said, a man's desire is to have his thoughts respected. A woman's desire is to have her feelings respected and cherished. Something like dancing. A man may not want to dance or something, okay? And he said, well, when what a man does is well received or done well, he feels more of a man. And women sometimes think criticism works on a man because sometimes it works on a woman. But it deflates and detracts for a man. And so the advice Matt gives is to tell the man how great something was, even when he did something really little well. And then ask, would he be willing to do more? Okay, so you guys know if this works or not. I'm just sharing this. Matt also says the thing you need to know about men is that when it comes to communication, men's minds are compartmentalized, okay? He says that it's like a giant apartment complex, men's minds. And that there's an apartment for his job, there's an apartment for sport, hobby, recreation, communication, reading the newspaper, watching TV, all of these different things, and that he can only be in one apartment at a time. Okay. That's what's most men. And so when he's watching TV and there is no hearing or no listening, that's because that's a whole nother apartment. He's not ignoring you. He literally can't hear you. He has to leave the apartment of watching TV, cross the courtyard, go into the apartment for hearing, and that's just kind of the way it is. Actually, women multitask better. They can be doing numerous things at once and watching TV. Men are just... and what stimulates a man's brain is different from what stimulates a woman's brain. It is said that oxytocin is a stimulant or a feel-good in the woman's brain. And in women, talking triggers this. But it does not trigger it in men. And this, this feel-good stimulant is also felt in a woman through cooperation and connection and contribution, all of those things. And from a very young age, for women, it's all about relationships, you know. Men get together so they can do things. Women do things so they can get together, right? And the feel-good receptors for men, they produce something called dopamine. And what triggers dopamine or elevates it in men is productiveness, competition, risky, dangerous stuff. You know, kind of like from the caveman era where you had to, you know, go out and hunt or go out to war or defend and all of that kind of thing. It's in there. Man uses logic, and a woman uses emotion and feelings to communicate. And talking about something makes her feel better, but it doesn't necessarily make a man feel better. You see, oxytocin suppresses dopamine. So just remember, men, you know, tend to compartmentalize, and women get frustrated when the man gets asked how he feels about something, and he doesn't respond. And again, it takes him time to leave the apartment that he's in, cross the courtyard, find the other apartment to get in touch with his feelings. And sometimes women can smother a man, or they chase after, they don't give him enough space for him to get his dopamine up. And so often a man just wants to get out of a conversation and is often inclined to abort a conversation sooner than a woman. And the woman takes it personally and can often get upset. But if the woman can just learn to give the man some time and some space to go get his dopamine up in the apartment that is appropriate, he'll come back and he'll maybe, you know, offer to talk and be in conversation. But if the person's upset, it kind of shuts that all down. So some of these things hopefully are helpful. And we can laugh at them, but and we have to own some of them, guys, gals. And again, it's not everyone. There are variations of this. And the important thing is to realize we not use these things against one another and say, oh, you know, I'm a man, it's just the way I am. Or I'm a woman, it's just the way I am, I can't help it, da, da, da. You know, that's really the escape route that the ego tends to use. And the ego has lots of escape routes to avoid feeling, okay, and feeling our way through them. So we learn that everyone is different, and women are different from men, and men are different from women, and we are different because we all have a different past, and we all have different filters that we are seeing and experiencing our world through. And if we can remember that, it's like we won't be so quick to criticize or judge or reject another person or take personally things that may be going on between two individuals. So unconditional love is something that we all really want to learn and develop, and unconditional love begins at home, you know, within ourselves. And once we can extend a sense of compassion and total acceptance and understanding toward ourselves, then we can begin to be more inclined to offer it to others as well. And the most powerful way to stop being a victim and to stop entering into blaming others for our unhappiness, or the best way to stop making any other person the enemy of your happiness, is to cultivate the idea of unconditional love and total self-acceptance. Unconditional love towards yourself and total self-acceptance. There was a time earlier in my life where, you know, and we're all still working through this, we all have residues, but there was a time when it was really strong in me that I recognized I had stuff that I didn't accept about myself. And so I used an affirmation, and I would say, I, Howard, love and accept myself totally and unconditionally. And I'd just keep saying it until I really felt it. I, Howard, love and accept myself totally and unconditionally. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to be something different. I don't have to play a role. I don't, you know, all that. And then another was where I said, I, Howard, am who I am. And that's wonderful. That meant that I got to be who I was in that moment of time and declare it as wonderful and acceptable. Okay? And boy, that puts you in a whole new state. And if you can do that and just see what comes up, is there resistance to that? You know, it's like, is there a part of you that doesn't want to buy it? Just be in touch with yourself around that. Many people don't know what unconditional love really is. And there's a guy, Greg Bear, who wrote a number of books, and he's an MD, wrote the book Real Love. And he has an exercise where he takes you through to be able to experience real love. And he has you imagine yourself getting into a chauffeur-driven car, and you're taken 2 hours out of town, and it's a place you've never visited. No one else knows about this place except you and the people that are there. And it's a beautiful place, but you're not going really to see the sights. You're going because everyone there is truly happy, genuinely happy. Everyone there feels already loved. And so there's no fear, there's no anger, there's no judgment, anything. And you've been invited to this place where this energy is so pure. You pull up your car and you get out, and dozens of people are around to welcome you, and just radiant love, and they're touching you and helping you into the house and asking about your trip. And they look at you in a way that you've never been looked at before, where it's total acceptance. And their only concern is your happiness. And because they have everything that really matters in life, and because they feel loved and they feel happy themselves, they don't need you to do anything for them, to earn their love or respect or whatever. And you get to know that there is nothing that you could possibly do that would disappoint them. And you see that it doesn't matter, you know, whether you're smart or not, or whether you're pretty or handsome or whatever. It doesn't mean anything to them. They're not needing to be impressed. They're just totally saturated with loving you and just who you are. And it's impossible to be rejected or to have these people not truly love you. And so I share with you that there is a place like that that exists here and now. Okay? You get the feeling, it exists here and now. And that there's a kind of relationship that exists here and now where you can experience that. And it is a sacred and holy place within you where God lives, because that's the way it is with God in you. We may not be able to experience it. We may deny what is the truth of that experience, but the truth is that's everything how God, the divine, a presence, loves you and is loving you now and trying to take you into that experience. So I want you, as you go your way, to remember it is within you. It is for you to know this. It is for you to go there often. Sometimes it's in meditation that you feel it so completely. But as you do, your relationships, as you come to know and feel that unconditional love, your relationships will be transformed, starting with you. God bless you all.
Thank you for joining us for today's message. We invite you to be with us again next Sunday. At Unity, we believe that God's presence of love and goodness is everywhere, and that life is meant to be good. You can find out more about Unity and our teachings at unityhouston.org.